How do I know when to negotiate?
Number one, never submit to a hospital or schedule an interview to a place unless you are willing to accept the offer that is on the table. This will prevent the agency recruiters, the hospital managers, and you from wasting time with the hospital if you really aren't certain that you want to go. Before agreeing to the interview, you also need to make sure that the pay rate is acceptable to you. Now, to do this, you need to find out what your housing is going to cost you. Just get a general idea of your housing and look on salary.com to see what the other nurses are making, and then look on there's a HUD site, HUD site that I just found, and it's wonderful for you to look up how much you're going to be paying for a place to live. After you have interviewed, done your research, and received your final numbers, then you will need to negotiate to see if the rate is right for that area.
How do I know what I should be making in a certain area?
You know, we actually have a chart for that. In our salary comparison chart, we take the maximum GSA rates, which is the Government Services Administration. We take the GSA rates and we figure out 75% compensation. Now, a year or two ago, the 75% was holding up, but this last couple of years, the bill rate just will not support that 75% in a lot of places. So that's why I've added a 50% to the salary comparison chart so that you have an idea of what you should be making in a certain area. On the salary aspect of the wage, I look up salary.com and see what the beginning RNs are making. I usually take that average rate and you put it at the top of both the 50% column and the 75% column. Now with salary.com, they also have intensive care. They do emergency room and operating room. Beyond that, they're a little shy on getting you the right specialty. So that's why I use RN1. If you have a higher paying specialty, you can go over to RN2 and use that number. Now we have a full video on the salary comparison chart, and I will put that in my notes.
What does the bill rate have to do with negotiations?
The bill rate is what the hospital pays the agency for your hours that you are there. But this bill rate, you must understand, also covers your recruiter's salary, all of the office staff. It covers credentialing costs, your exams, your titers, your fit test. Then it also takes care of your C-suite people, the CEO, CFO, and CNO, and it also, a big part of it is taxes and insurance. Workman's comp and liability insurance are just outlandish. It's crazy the amount that these companies pay for these insurances, but they have to have it for you to be on contract. Most companies will take 25 to 35% of that bill rate, but they're only making maybe a 5 to 10 net profit out of it. That's how much they're keeping. The larger companies, of course, they have investors. They need take a little bit more on the profit side. So that's one thing you want to weigh out whenever you're dealing with a larger company or a smaller company.
How does having more than one travel agency working with you make a difference in negotiations?
You know, I know that some nurses have 5 or 6 companies that have been doing this for a while. But for my newbies, I really stress that you only need to work with 2 or 3 companies. This gives you some idea of what the other companies are making so that you can see what they're paying to see if you're getting your fair share. Remember always to compare apples to apples by looking at the benefits they provide and how much your insurance is going to cost, plus all of the other extras. And extras, I mean, how much travel are you getting? How much is the insurance and stuff like that? By using our salary comparison chart found in our Facebook group, you can compare several jobs at the same time.
How do I approach my recruiter?
Reminds me of an old joke. How do you catch a unique rabbit? You sneak up on him. How do you catch a tame one? The tame way. How do you sneak up on a recruiter? You educate yourself. So by watching this video, you're doing really good. So after you get your contract, I would approach your recruiter and tell them that you would like to discuss your pay package. And go at this in an educational way, in the fact that the maximum GSA, and that the bill rate is going to only support about 50% of it. Tell them what you're finding for housing, give them that number, tell them what the staff is making on the salaries and what the pay rates, other pay rates are in that area. And then also you can look up the HUD rate. And the HUD rate will give you what the rental rate is for that area. And you can also present rates that you are getting from Airbnb, VRBO, which is vacation rental by owner, and then CRBO, which is corporate housing by owner. And all those links I will put onto you. By approaching your recruiter like this, then they know that you've done your research and that you're just not coming up with an arbitrary number, that you have a number that has been researched.
In regards to contract extension, what's the best approach?
And our last question, we're going to discuss, as he said, contract extensions. Now this is a little bit different because you already have a primary rate that you're receiving right now. A few things that you need to look at is, does the economy change in 13 weeks? A great example of this is if you're taking an assignment in Arizona, their winter rates are way different than their summer rates. Their housing, you can find housing for $500 a month in the summer, and then in the winter, you won't find housing for $2,000 a month, okay? Because the snowbirds come down there. In California, you have to be careful of, are they crisis rates or non-crisis rates? They work in the same way. In winter, whenever you do have some snowbirds and you also have flu season, the California rates will change also. And then what credentialing needs to be renewed. Okay, unlike the beginning of an assignment, whenever you do a renewal, there is not as much credentialing cost. So with the economy change and the crisis versus non-crisis rate, you may get a decrease in pay, but with credentialing stuff, then you should be getting $3 to $5 an hour more. So hope this helps you a bunch, and we'll see you next week. Bye.